Well, we know that at this point, at least, it looks like Hillary Clinton may avoid a court case, but Donald Trump is going to be facing quite a few, up to, 75 civil lawsuits are now pending against him, and he's actually pursuing some also. Quentin Brogdon joins us, one of the country's top personal injury attorneys. Quentin, great to have you on WILS.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
And that's quite a deal. Now, if you were the president's attorney, how would you begin to deal with these pending cases now that, as he becomes president?
Well, it's a matter of balancing it. He has much bigger fish to fry right now. He's got to run a country, and either way, he's going to be out a lot of money and time. He's either going to be paying millions of dollars to lawyers or even more millions of dollars to settle these cases. As recently as today, supposedly there was a conference call in the Trump University case where they're trying to get that settled. His lawyers, all three of them, there were three big class action cases arising out of the Trump University claims.
Do you imagine the courts dealing with these cases differently now that he's president? Or?
Well, there's United States Supreme Court precedent. There was a case involving Nixon after Nixon left office that said that presidents are immune for damages based on their official acts while they're president. But then there was a case in 97 later involving President Clinton. Most of us know about that case, Paula Jones. And it said there's no immunity for presidents for acts before they become president. So he doesn't have immunity, and there's precedent for going forward against presidents for things that happened before they were president. Teddy Roosevelt.
You could call him as president into a courtroom and have him testify on multiple civil lawsuits? Is that what you're saying? Or?
You can, and the judge in the Trump University case, for instance, says or has intimated that he could testify by remote video, perhaps. He's already been, his deposition's been taken. The student's attorney opposes that. They want him actually in the courtroom.
Talking to Quentin Brogdon, one of the country's top personal injury lawyers. So if you're his attorney, if you were working for him on, let's say, the case like Trump University, would you be doing everything to just settle it and get it behind you? Or?
I would. At a minimum, I'd be trying to put them off to give him some time to get settled. Right now, he's under a little bit of duress. He's got quite an adjustment to make. He has to pick, his cabinet and his advisors, and there's quite a bit of stuff to do in just a few months. His trial right now in the Trump University case, one of them, is set for 2 weeks from now.
Wow.
And the lawyers who represent him in that are trying to put that off at least until after he gets into office. The judge has already delayed the trial until after the election, but he refused to dismiss it.
Yeah.
This is the judge that Trump, disparaged as a Mexican and a hater, and said quite a few not flattering things about him.
I mean, it's tricky because at some point it can start looking like there might even be a political vendetta against him if he's being pursued while he's in office. How much of an issue could that actually become in a courtroom, do you imagine?
It could be. I mean, and so whether you love Trump or despise him or you fall somewhere in between, there's a bigger thing at work here, and that is you can't have the president tied down with lots of different civil lawsuits. On the one hand, that no one's above the law and the president needs to be accountable. On the other hand, when you're the president, we need him, running the free world and not being bogged down. Lawsuits are very time-consuming, so there has to be some kind of balance.
What about the fact that he's planning on, obviously he wants to disconnect himself from the Trump organization as president. He's going to have his children run the company. How does that change any pending court cases against him, would you say?
Well, he doesn't necessarily have to be personally involved in all these cases. Some of them involve claims involving his corporations, and so will he personally have to testify and be in the mix in all of them? No, that's almost certain he will not have to be. Exactly what his involvement will need to be will depend case upon case.
When you see someone running a company of that size, the Trump organization, with as many as 75 civil lawsuits, does that sound like a lot?
He is quite litigious, and it's an unprecedented number of legal actions. He's, by some estimates, been involved, he and his companies, over the last 3 decades in 3,500 legal actions where he either initiated them or he was named or his company was as one of his companies as a defendant. So he's quite litigious, so that is unprecedented. But just because you're the president of Walmart doesn't mean if there's a slip and fall in a Walmart store that the president has to come give a deposition.
Mm-hmm.
There's a concept called the Apex rule where they have to have some kind of special knowledge or be personally on the hook.
Okay, so any cases that happen after he becomes president, would that just be handled by somebody completely separate from him and one of his kids or so on? Or?
Well, cases involving his corporation, yes, he should not have to be in the mix on those. Mm-hmm. If he does something as president, then in essence, I'm oversimplifying, his actions are the actions of the United States of America, and then the government's lawyers represent him for claims.
Hey, Quentin, one last question with these women that have alleged that he touched them inappropriately. He said he will file suits against them. He said they're all lying. If, as an attorney for him, if you were that, what would you say to him about that?
I would strongly advise him not to do that, and my prediction is he will not do that. He would have to prove they deliberately lied, and he'd probably have to testify under oath about those assaults, something I don't think he's going to want to do and something I would not advise him to do if I were his lawyer.
Do you imagine one of them or some of them actually pursuing cases against him at this point? Or?
It's possible, but I think it's Gloria Allred who represents a number of them. She said they're not, her claims, or clients at least, are not going to initiate lawsuits, but if they are sued by him, they will vigorously defend themselves. So he should probably let that just lie and not stir up that ant bed. That would be my advice.
Attorney Quentin Brogdon, one of the country's top personal injury lawyers, partner at Crain Lewis. CrainLewis.com is where you can find him. Quentin, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. Yeah. Appreciate it.